So Autotrickler came out with their version 1.2 software recently, and I figured we'd take a look at it just to see what's going on. And the biggest changes have been in this tuning tab over here. You can see it's a very different layout than the previous version of the app. The biggest thing for me that I think I'm really glad to see are different profiles that you can switch between now, and so you can save different profiles for different loads. And so if you get one of these, you tap on the name, you can give it a name, and it will save, and then as you do your tuning, it automatically saves to that setting. And so that's fine, that you don't have to like do any save button or anything. But I figured we'd take a look at the settings and see what's going on. Now, my initial impression, having played with the app just for like one loading session, it's not going to ultimately improve overall speed potential. And reading through the guy's comments, Adam here at Autotrickler, I don't think it's meant or intended to give the impression that this will make everything faster. It is supposed to make it easier to go faster. And so the first thing, I've got 4350 loaded up in there, and so let's just do the calibration routine. And I do have the JThor tip installed now. Honestly, I probably need to take that off. I'm not overly convinced that that's really necessary. So if you see that in the video, don't worry about it. I really think the JThor tip may not really be necessary. You know, I made a video on that and didn't really find that it did anything. At least not on my setup. Okay, so there's the calibration. Now, it does recommend that you get these more over toward the green, and so you've got your big tube and your small tube grains per second. And so basically, if I wanted to, and it looks like I need to slow this thing down, I could put some shims under the front of this thing. So basically, where it sits here, right here on the edges, I could put either, some pieces of paper or something and raise that up a bit, and that would slow that drop rate down a little bit. And, they even now have this little color bar to kind of indicate, hey, you want to be in the middle of this thing rather than on one side. And so it says I'm dropping a little fast. So perhaps I could get, better overall speed and precision if I raise the front of my Autotrickler up. Now, from here, you've got your other settings, and they also included a lot of help settings here. And so it says this bulk speed, that's the large tube ramp down curve. And so if you raise it up, basically the beginning of your drop is going to go faster because that top tube, the big tube's going to go faster. You've got the transition, and so this is how far out from your target end weight do you switch down to the small or the slower tube. So then you've got the finish speed, which is essentially going to be the speed of the bottom, the smaller tube. So, raise that up, and that bottom tube's going to start off faster. And then you've got a buffer, and that buffer is basically at what distance from the target weight does it slow down to like its slowest speed before it starts like trickling, single grains or attempting. And so overall, my thoughts as far as tuning this thing, it's going to be a very similar but simplified procedure compared to the first one, where for me, the way I would tune this thing is I would start off getting that bulk speed kind of up, and then I would bring it down until I stopped getting big tube overthrows. And I would probably play with the bulk speed in the transition, because really you probably want to get that transition as low as you can without getting big tube overthrows. And once you're there, then you want to, again, kind of go to that finish speed, get it high, and then pull it down until you stop getting overthrows, playing with that buffer to kind of, work back and forth between that finish speed and that buffer to work out your small tube overthrows. Okay, so with kind of the default here, and this seems to be like kind of most everything in the middle, this just the default settings. I'm going to do 42 grains on a drop. This is Hodgkin 4350. So see how quick it goes. So we did get an overthrow with that one. All right, so I'm just going to do a quick speed check on this thing, and we'll see how fast this default setting goes. Now, it did give me an overthrow, so obviously it needs some tuning, but let's give it a shot here. So started it whenever I set this back down. It's not going to 0 really quick, but we'll just see what it goes for. All right, so about 16 seconds. That's pretty quick. That's quicker than the previous default settings. But it's, you know, again, that first one was an overthrow. Let's see what we can do. Let's crank this thing up. I'm going to put it on about 8. I'm going to back the transition to 2. I'm going to put the finish speed up to 8, and then I'm going to back that buffer off to 0.6. Just to show you kind of, you know, you ramp this thing up, and let's see what these changes do for the overall speed impact. Okay, let's hit tear. All right, so just with those settings, and that one's pretty much bang on. That's, you know, 1 grain within the target weight, and 8.23 seconds. Yeah, so this one, it's pretty easy to get this thing on target. So let me reset. Let's do another one. Because, again, you don't want to trust just one throw. Let's at least do a couple and see, do we get overthrows on this thing? All right, 8 seconds again. So, yeah, I think the new app certainly, it's a lot quicker. There's not as many settings. And after messing with the other app, I kind of understand how this thing works. So, you know, you watch that other video I made on tuning the old software. It translates pretty well. It's just there's fewer settings. It's more direct. It is quicker. And you can achieve really good speed, right? I mean, I'm already under 10 seconds. Now, again, this isn't a full test. I'm not going to do 30 drops and all that stuff because I really don't think anything has changed about the mechanical speed potential here. The new app just simplifies the settings. It makes it easier to get speed. It gives you some visual indicators on do you need to adjust your tilt on your machine. And the biggest blessing of all, we now have profiles. Hallelujah, thank you, we have profiles. It also gives a good little help guide, and so if you're not sure what settings do, it does give you indications. It gives you a little help up here on how to do your calibration. So I do think it's a good improvement on the app. If nothing else, the profiles themselves are 100% worth it. So good update. Those are my overall quick thoughts. Anyway, as always, if you got any feedback, comments, suggestions, questions, feel free to leave them in a comment below.